Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Wednesday, October 19th, 2016.
Commissioner Rivas, Repenning, James, Davis, and Jacinto are present. President James, we have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Street Services.
Tim Tyson, Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning. Michael Simpson, LA Sanitation.
Good morning. Mike Cirillo, Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning. Ruben Flamenco, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning. Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. President James, we did not receive any speaker cards under general public comment, no commentary under the Neighborhood Council's comment section. We did receive a speaker card under item number 8.
Okay, well, we'll close general public comment as well as the Neighborhood Council category of commentary. Is there a second to my motion that we approve the meeting minutes from the meeting of Monday, September 26, 2016 by Commissioner Repenning? Any objection? Without objection, we will approve those meeting minutes. Agenda item number 1, the receipt of bids this morning for the Hyperion Treatment Plant 1 mile outfall repair. The estimate's $5,750,000. Actually, we have 2 projects. And for the North Atwater non-motorized multimodal bridge federal project, estimate $9,235,500. That one's in Council Districts 4 and 13. The first one's in CD 11. Mr. Campos on number 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer.
Actually, you know what? A couple of housekeeping items before we do that.
Sure.
Let's go ahead, just in case people are waiting on this. Agenda item number 5. The Bureau's requested that we continue agenda item number 5 to a week from today, which is October 26, 2016. That's a tree removal item. I know they're going to work on some environmental or CEQA questions between now and then. So we'll continue agenda item number 5 to October 26, 2016. Also, the Bureau has requested that agenda item number 2 be continued from today for 1 week until October 26, 2016. So agenda items 2 and 5 continued to October 26, 2016. With that done, Mr. Campos on number 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first bid to be open today is for the Hyperion Treatment Plant 1 mile outfall repair. This is in Council District 11. The city has estimated this project to be at $5,750,000 even. The first bid received for this project is from Manson Construction Company for a total bid amount of $5,717,500 even. That's $5,717,500 from Manson Construction Company. The second bid received for the first project is from TechCom International Corporation for a total bid amount of $5,465,000 even. That's $5,465,000 from TechCom International Corporation. The third and final bid received for the first project is from Curtin, that's C-U-R-T-I-N, Maritime Corporation, for a total bid amount of $5,723,804 even. That's $5,723,804 from Curtin Maritime Corporation. President James, that concludes the bid openings for the first project. We will now continue to open the bids for the second project. For the record, the second project is for the North Atwater non-motorized multimodal bridge. It's a federal project number ATPL-5006-833. This is in Council District number 4 and 13. The city has estimated this project to be at $9,235,500 even. The first bid received for the second project is from Shimmick Construction Company, Incorporated. That's S-H-I-M-M-I-C-K, for a total bid amount of $20,128,080 even. That's $20,128,080 from Shimmick Construction Company, Incorporated. The second bid received for the second project is from Griffith Company for a total bid amount of $12,900,438 even. That's 12900,438 from Griffith Company. For the record, the total bid amount has been lined out but initialed by the contractor. The third bid received for the second project is from Reyes Construction Incorporated. For a total bid amount of $12,545,369 even. That's 12545,369 from Reyes Construction Incorporated. For the record, line item 1, line item 55 have been stricken out by the contractor but initialed. The fourth bid received for the second project is from John S. Meek Company, Incorporated, for a total bid amount of $13,281,910 even. That's 13281,910 from John S. Meek Company, Incorporated. For the record, line item number 23, 24, 42 have been lined out but initialed by the contractor. The fifth and final bid received for the second project is from Flatiron West Incorporated for a total bid amount of $12,558,925 even. That's 12558,925 from Flatiron West Incorporated. For the record, line item 12 has been initialed. Line item 12 has been lined out and initialed by the contractor. Line item 21 has it appears to be an error, however, it's 1015,000. It's not lined out, not initialed, but again, for the record, it's $1,015,000 even. That's for line item 21. President James, that concludes the bid openings for the second bid and the bid openings for today's agenda.
Okay, is there a second to my motion that we receive the bids forthwith by Commissioners Repenning and Davis? Any objection? Without objection, the bids will be received. Thank you, Mary and Kumi. Mr. Campos, on agenda item number, let's move to number 10. In Council District 2, specifications submitted for the board adoption and authorization to advertise for the invitation of bids for Ventura Boulevard sidewalk improvement. Estimates $1,060,000. The bid receipt date's November 30th, 2016. Mr. Campos, something needs to be amended on the motion on agenda item number 10?
That is correct. In the design and funding section of the invitation, the word plan needs to be replaced with the word project location drawings. So just to replace the word plans with project location drawings.
Okay, then I would move that we adopt agenda item number 10 as amended. Is there a second on that? Commissioner Jacinto, any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 10 as amended. Any issue sending number 10 forthwith as amended? We'll send number 10 forthwith as amended. Agenda item number 9, authority for expenditure, truck owners. On file, the Office of Accounting and Bureau of Street Services requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $3 million, the adjusted total $6 million, to encumber additional funds to provide for the Bureau's as-needed trucking program for the fiscal year that we're currently in, 2016-2017. Mario, for number 9, our quarterly infusion. We do this quarterly, correct?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, good morning. My name is Mario Interiano. I'm here with representing the Bureau of Street Services. Again, asking for approval of our authority for expenditure to encumber an additional $3 million to bring us to a total encumbrance of $6 million for the second quarter of this fiscal year. We appear to be on target as having spent the same amount through pay period 6, which last year was about $2.8 million, and right now we're running at about $2.6 million.
Any questions for our standard quarterly encumbrance of funds to pay the as-needed trucking program?
Do we have a shortfall in this quarter from the last quarter?
No, I don't think so. It's the only, like I said, the only difference, if you're talking about just the difference between last year and this year, yeah, it's a $200,000 shortfall right at this point, but it's pretty much on target. I don't really see it as a significant difference.
You know what, Mario, it might be helpful in the next quarter, maybe if you'll just come in with a status update or an oral report on an update on the as-needed trucking program.
Absolutely.
Just with the metrics that relate to the program and any recent changes that we've had.
Very well.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 9, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 9. Any issues sending it forthwith? We'll send number 9 forthwith. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 3, Council District 11, task order solicitation number 00121 to URS Incorporated, recommending that the board authorize the city engineer to issue a revision of the task for solicitation number 00-121 to URS Incorporated, increasing the budget authority from $310,000 to $480,000 for continued soil remediation, groundwater investigation, and related services in connection with the Venice Street Maintenance Yard project. On number 3, Michael Mulhern. I saw you there, sir. You moved seats on me. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Mike Mulhern, Bureau of Engineering's Geotechnical Engineering Group. At this site, we've been doing investigation and soil remediation for a number of years under the purview of the Los Angeles Fire Department Underground Tank Unit. Our discussions with them indicated that the remediation was going very well and that we should ask for case closure. So last year's budget, we did what's called confirmation sampling. We took a number of new soil borings around the proposed area that we've cleaned up. However, two things unfortunate happened. One, the fire department transferred the whole case over to the Regional Water Quality Control Board. There's some politics there I won't go into. Being the water board, of course, they want water samples. And during that water sampling, we found a small but significant amount of contamination in the groundwater. So they've issued new orders that we have to investigate the groundwater as well as possible further soil contamination, and we have to restart the bioventing remediation unit. So this increase in $170,000 will cover the rest of this year and all of 2017. So that'll include the investigation required by the regional board as well as operating and servicing the remedial unit from now until the end of 2017.
So thank you, Mr. Mulhern. So if we see another request for an increase, it would be at the end of calendar year 2017?
Yes, it would be for 2018.
Okay.
So this will take us a little over a year. Normally we are allotted 1 year at a time from the CAO's office. This year we had some extra money to kind of cover this amount.
Okay. Any questions on agenda item number 3? Commissioner Santos made a motion that we, thank you for the update. Commissioner Santos made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 3, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we will adopt agenda item number 3. Any issue sending it forthwith? We'll send number 3 forthwith. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And just so the record is clear on this item, as Mr. Mulhern indicated, the CAO requirements of 1 year out is the reason that we see the annual requests for the estimated increase in funding. Agenda item number 4 in Council District 4, requested tree removal, 1511 North Summit Ridge Drive. Recommending that the board first certify that the board has reviewed and considered the information in the mitigated negative declaration for the project at 11511. And I've got a couple of different addresses here. And so we'll have Mr. Tyson clear up. Mr. Tyson, is it 1511 or 11511?
1511 and 1601 North Summit Ridge Drive.
Okay. So we'll have you when you come up to the microphone, clear up the addresses. I'll just call it the Summit Ridge Project in the interim. Recommending that the board certify that the board has reviewed and considered the information in the mitigated negative declaration for this Summit Ridge Drive project, and find the information contained therein appropriately addresses the requested tree removals. Number 2, find that the project will not have a significant environmental effect under the above described mitigated negative declaration, as the imposition of the mitigation measures described in the MND and incorporated herein as project conditions, such that there is no substantial evidence that the project will have a significant effect on the environment pursuant to the city's environmental guidelines and is in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. Number 3, find that the project's conflict with any local policies or ordinances protecting biological resources, such as tree preservation policies or ordinances, is less than significant with the incorporation of the mitigation measures 410 through 60 and 410 through 80 as contained in the MND. Adopt the MND. Number 5, specify that the Bureau of Street Services Urban Forestry Division, located at 1149 South Broadway, is custodian of the documents or other material that constitute the record of the proceedings upon which the board's decision is based. And number 6, approve the request for a fee tree removal permit for 5 Southern California black walnut trees for demolition and new home construction. Tree replacements are required. Mr. Tyson, who's going to tell us what the address is. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, President James, Commissioners, Bureau Executives, City Attorney, and Executive Officer. The actual address is 1511 North Summit Ridge Drive, as listed on the mitigated negative declaration, to double check everything.
Thank you. That's correct on the board report then.
Yes, it looks like someone hit an extra one down in the recommendation, first paragraph.
So it is
Number
correct
1.
on the agenda. It's also correct on the title of the report. However, on item number 1, recommendation number 1 before you does have that extra 1 digit.
That was what confused me. So the record is clear on that now. Go ahead. Thank you.
David Bradley, owner, authorized agent, contacted the Bureau of Street Services regarding the demolition of an existing home and construction of a new family home located at 1511 Summit Ridge Drive. The lot is on a west-facing hillside with moderate to steep topography looking out over the city of Beverly Hills. The lot size is approximately 77,100 square feet with an older single-family residence. The existing residence has a footprint area of approximately 1,777 square feet on a small flat pad in the lower portion of the lot. The owner is proposing to demolish the existing residence and build a new single-family home of approximately 7,400 square feet of first floor area. The proposed project anticipates the removal of trees protected by the City of Los Angeles Municipal Code, Section 46, protected trees. In response to the inquiry, Mr. Brady was directed to obtain the services of a Los Angeles Municipal Code-defined tree expert to evaluate the project and the impacts to the trees that may occur. Mr. Brady acquired the services of Mrs. Lisa Smith, registered consulting arborist, to provide an assessment of the property and to address the proposed dwellings impacts and earth movement that would be required in order to create the pad necessary for the new home. A Bureau of Street Services arborist inspected the location, which was Lisa Smith provided a protected tree report, and the concern was 5 Southern California black walnuts. The inspection revealed that the 5 Southern California black walnut trees are in poor condition, measuring approximately 4 to 14 inches in cumulative diameter by 10 to 20 feet in height. The 5 protected trees will be directly impacted due to the required grading needed for construction of the single-family residence. The Bureau of Street Services reviewed the report and agrees with Mrs. Smith's assessment. Sylvia Martinez, Field Deputy, 4th Council District Office, was contacted and informed of the tree removal request on August 9, 2016. And the Council Office does not object to the project at this time. The applicant, also CFAC, was notified of this on the same date. The applicant shall plant 20 24-inch box-sized coast live oak trees to replace the removed trees. The survival of the tree replacements shall be guaranteed for a period of 3 years by bonding. If the board approves the protected tree removal, the tree removal permit shall be issued by Bureau of Street Services upon notification by the Bureau of Engineering that the bond has been posted. Upon issuance of the protected tree removal permit, the Bureau shall be notified a minimum of 10 days prior to the day of the protected tree removals. The applicant's tree expert shall be on site the day of the tree removals to ensure the proper trees are removed. A Bureau arborist will arrange an on-site meeting with the applicant or their tree expert the day following the protected tree removals. The applicant, in conjunction with the project's landscape architect or tree expert, shall be responsible to ensure the tree removal permit, tree replacement conditions are in compliance. Replacement tree planting shall follow the landscape plan to the fullest extent possible. The Bureau shall be notified no later than 5 days after the completion of the tree replacements. A Bureau arborist will make arrangements to visit the site and approve the tree replacements as being in compliance with the permit conditions within 5 working days of the notification of the planting. The Bureau shall be notified immediately if any permit conditions have been violated or cannot be fulfilled. Failure to comply with this requirement may result in legal actions. Therefore, the Bureau of Street Services, after inspecting and reviewing the report, which we agree with, asks this board to approve the proposed 5 removals.
Any questions on number 4? Commissioner Cinto.
Thank you, President James. Tim, thank you for the report. It's good to see the 4-to-1 replacement. Is that elective on behalf of the developer, or is that a condition that we usually have when we're removing protected trees?
Absolutely. One of our conditions is to try to get all the trees back in. Sometimes we have to go a little bit smaller due to availability of the Southern California black walnut trees. They're very hard to propagate in a nursery, so we can only get those in 1-gallon container size. So on this project, we decided to go back in with Quercus agrifolia, coast live oak, and have bigger canopy trees.
Very good.
Because it's a very large property, and yes, they have plenty of room to plant larger trees.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Any other questions on number 4? Commissioner Cinto's made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 4, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? With that objection, we will adopt agenda item number 4. Any issues sending it forthwith? We will send number 4 forthwith. Thank you, sir. On number 5, we've continued that. Number 6, Council District 1, tree removal at 2320 South Hoover Street. Recommending that the board first find that the tree removal, 1, classifies as operation, repair, maintenance, or minor alteration of an existing street, sidewalk, and gutter involving negligible or no expansion of use beyond that previously existing and does not involve the removal of a scenic resource. Number 2, that the action is exempt under Article 3, Section 1, Class 1, Category 3, existing facilities, sidewalk repair, or maintenance of the City of Los Angeles Environmental Quality Act guidelines from 2002. And number 3, that none of the exceptions to the use of a categorical exemption as set forth in Section 15300.2 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines apply, and then review and approve this no-fee tree removal permit request for 4 jacaranda trees for the reconstruction of an off-grade public sidewalk. Tree replacements are required. Mr. Tyson on number 6.
Again, good morning. The Bureau of Street Services, in collaboration with other city departments, are reconstructing an existing median island in Council District 1. The project is known to Bureau of Street Services as the Hoover Transit Triangle area, located at the intersection of Hoover Street, bounded by West 23rd Street and Union Avenue. The proposed design build improvement project will make the triangle more useful to the adjacent community, as well as improving access to pedestrians and transit vehicles. The project is funded by Council District 1 with $200,000 from their discretionary funds and $250,000 from a community development block grant. As part of the median island renovation, the Bureau of Street Services Engineering Division has identified defective sidewalks at the Hoover Triangle Transit area and is working in collaboration with Bureau of Street Services Urban Forestry Division in addressing potential impacts to street trees adjacent to targeted locations. Miss Arizi, Street Services Engineering Division representative, contacted the Urban Forestry Division requesting the site be inspected and to verify the need for tree removals or the impacts thereof that the trees would be sustained by the improvements. A Bureau arborist inspected the subject location on May 25, 2016. The inspection revealed 4 fair condition jacaranda mimicifolia trees measuring an average of 12 inches in diameter by 35 feet in height. The trees are growing in 4-foot by 4-foot tree wells and have outgrown their growing space provided and are creating off-grade conditions to the sidewalk. Due to the minimal tree well size, the required root pruning on these trees would significantly adversely affect the tree's health and root structural integrity, leaving them potentially unstable. Jose Rodriguez, 1st Council District representative, was informed of the tree removal request on August 3, 2016. Notice of the proposed tree removal was physically posted on the subject trees on August 3, 2016. Proposed tree removals were included in the Bureau of Street Services tree removal notification system, and the Community Forest Advisory Committee was also notified. The Bureau of Street Services shall plant 8 24-inch box-sized jacaranda mimicifolia trees on site to comply with the Board of Public Works 2-to-1 tree replacement policy. All trees shall be watered by the irrigation system designed to ensure the survival and establishment of the trees. What the Bureau of Street Services is going to do is not plant the trees in the sidewalk. The trees are going to be planted to the rear of the sidewalk within the triangle, therefore giving these trees much more growing space and a much more sustainable outcome.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Commissioner Repenning.
I think you answered my question. This looks like a great project, by the way. Looks like a nice community amenity will be added. And I guess just to clarify because we don't usually see these problems with jacarandas very much in terms of tearing up sidewalks that badly.
If you actually can see that there are some pretty uplifted areas there from main roots growing back towards the grass area. And normally the jacarandas have much more room to grow in. They don't put them in a 4x4 well. We try to put them in 4x6 or 4x10 wells and give them more space.
Okay.
But by putting them to the rear of the sidewalk, they won't be in a tree well. They'll be in a grass area and have a much longer, happier life.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Repenning. Anything further on agenda item number 6? Is there a motion on number 6? By Commissioner Rivas, seconded by Commissioner Repenning and Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 6. Any issue sending number 6 forthwith? We will send number 6 forthwith. Thank you, Mr. Tyson.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody from the Department of Transportation that's appeared this morning on agenda item number 7? Anyone from DOT here on number 7? Okay, we'll go ahead and take number 8. Oh, you are here from DOT on number 7? Oh, great. Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead and call number 7. Council District 1 requested contract award, Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative, Highland Park improvements along Figueroa Street between Avenue 50 and Avenue 60. This was a rebid, recommending that the board first declare Axiom Group the sole bidder to be the lowest responsible bidder and award Axiom a contract for the project for the total bid amount of $146,900.04 and authorize the president or 2 members of the Board of Public Works to execute the contract after approval as to form has been obtained from the city attorney. It's a federal project. Go ahead and who's ever here from DOT that if you want to present on the project, that's great.
We're working with Lonnie, the Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative. Oh, my name is Austin Kanu. Good morning, with the LA Department of Transportation. And Alan Thatcher is with Lonnie, Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative. And we're working together to implement this project. And Lonnie is the main lead of this Highland Park Improvement Project, so I'll have Alan give a brief
Are you from Lonnie?
Yes.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Sure. Good morning. So this project entails about...
And just so we're using acronyms, so the record's clear, Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative.
Neighborhood Initiative.
Go ahead.
Good morning. So the project, again, was funded through federal funds roughly about 6 years ago. Now, those funds were discretionary, and through CD1, we were able to work with community groups, including the Business Improvement District, as well as a number of community business owners. And what they wanted to see was a particular art walk encompassing Avenues 50 through 60. And so what this project would entail, again, is 14 mosaic tile pairs through Avenues 50 and 60. Now, the first bid was bid over the original allocated amount. And so this rebid now would hopefully, I believe, be approved through the board. And I think Austin Connell can speak more to the specifics of DOT as well as BOE's process for the rebid.
Commissioner Jacinto.
Thank you. I'd like to ask a question regarding the first bid. How much were we over in terms of that compelled us to rebid this project?
So the original bid, I think, came in about 2.5% over the original amount. The original amount was 143,178, 143,178. And the sole bidder, Axiom Group, bid at 146,904 cents.
And so that was the impetus for the rebid?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Jacinto, was your question regarding a prior bid that we're not looking at now that resulted in the rebid?
Clarifying. Yes, in terms of what was mentioned, that we rebid it because.
Right.
So
I'm not sure if I know, what was the amount that was bid that forced the rebid?
So the amount that forced the rebid was 146,904 cents. So the cost estimate was at 143,178, and they bid about, again, roughly about $3,000 over.
Right. I still think we might be a little confused. So
I apologize.
we're looking at a bid right now that is from Axiom Group for $146,900. And that's what the proposed recommendation is for the amount. The bid estimate was $143,178. But because this says this is a rebid, it tells me that at some point in the past, there was a bid and an amount came in that for whatever reason we didn't accept, and that got us to the 146. That's the number we're looking for, the number that's not on this paper.
I apologize. I don't have that number with me. I have to maybe forward that to you. I don't have that amount right now.
Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, the clarifying question is, because of that price, we felt compelled to rebid to try to get a lower price?
Correct.
Is that the rationale?
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm going to guess that we got a lower price only because this bid's only 2.6% higher than the estimate. Is that a fair assumption?
I'm sorry?
I'm going to assume that with this rebid, that this 146 is probably lower than what the old number was because it's only 2% higher than the estimate.
Correct.
Is that a fair assumption?
Yes.
Even though you may not know the number, you know it's lower than from before.
Correct.
Okay, fine. Is that helpful, Commissioner Jacinto? Okay, great. Yeah, you could email us that number. It'd be helpful. Anything else? Anybody on?
No, I just want to say it's a great project.
And the rebid, it sounds like we saved some money.
Right, we saved some money, and it's a wonderful reinterpretation of historical context. So I support this. I think it's great. I just wanted to know that. Where were we at before?
Commissioner Jacinto, thank you, sir. Anything further?
I would just like to
Commissioner
say
Davis.
as a matter of practice that this tool of rebidding was very effective, and I think that we need to consider it in some of the other circumstances that come before the board where we have these kind of conflicts that clash with the values of the board. So I'm appreciative of your executing and implementing this rebid, and I'm just saying to those of us who work together, let us think of this tool of rebidding again on other projects like yours. So thank you for presenting it, and I think it was financially in the best interest of the city financially, for sure.
Thank you, sir.
Is that a motion, Commissioner Davis? Okay, so seconded by Commissioner Cento. Any objection? With that objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 6. Any issue sending number 6 forthwith? We will send number 6 forthwith. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item, I'm sorry, that was number 7.
7.
Yes. Number 6 is what's on my paper. That was number 7. So the motion was on number 7, the second was on number 7, the vote was on number 7, as was the forthwith. All right, so we're clear. Number 8. And number 8's all that's left this morning, Mr. Campos?
We did receive another speaker card during the session, so I'll hand that over to you.
Is it on number 8 as well?
Number 8, yes.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead and call number 8. Bureau of Contract Administration, Bureau of Engineering, Council District 9, requested contract acceptance, Estelle Van Biener Multipurpose Center Rehabilitation, recommending that the board first accept the contract, second, assess AMG and Associates with a penalty in the amount of $14,600 for the unauthorized subcontractor substitutions of 1 bid-listed WBE subcontractor, 2 bid-listed OBE subcontractors, and 1 substitute OBE subcontractor. That was second. Number 3, do not assess AMG with a penalty in the amount of $7,400 for the unauthorized subcontractor substitutions of 2 bid-listed OBE subcontractors for the reasons discussed in the report. And number 4, instruct the Director of the Office of Accounting to disencumber the recommended city penalty in the amount of $10,000 from the project fund and collect the remaining funds in the amount of $4,600 from AMG. This was originally heard on August 29th, 2016. During that hearing, there was some confusion regarding what had occurred between the objector to the penalty, to the protester to the penalty, in communications with the Bureau. So they were sent back to work together to see if we could clear up some of the issues that were raised in the hearing on August 29th, and to do that, we allowed them, it looks like 3 weeks, to September 19th. At September 19th, the information was transmitted to me that they needed additional time to continue to work it out, perhaps the exchange of documents, information, etc. So it was continued to September 28th. For some reason, it was continued from September 28th to October 12th. October 12th, however, was a board recess in observance of the Yom Kippur Jewish holiday, so that moved it to today, which is October 19th. So I think that I've gotten the dates right. We have 1 speaker card, but 2 people that look anxious to speak here at the Board of Public Works Hearing Room and Refrigeration Center. So let's see if we, okay, they're both from the same company. So let's start with Ms. McGlinchey real quick. And the reason, gentlemen, that I want to start with Ms. McGlinchey, one, we have a new commissioner here that wasn't here last time, Commissioner Rivas. And because we've continued this item, a lot of time has passed. So I think, Ms. McGlinchey, if you would just indulge us with starting your presentation again, we will let's take this anew and try and get a resolution today. So go ahead.
Okay, good morning. Linda McGlinchey, Bureau of Contract Administration, Office of Contract Compliance. As stated in the recommendations, we are recommending penalties related to 4 of their bid-listed subcontractors, and that penalties not be assessed for 2 other bid-listed subcontractors. And this is all in relation to the city's business inclusion program, of which our contract documents require contractors to utilize the subs that they bid list in their bid proposal documents for the full dollar amount that they list them for. And the only way that they can avoid a penalty for not fully utilizing them is if they are substituted out with another subcontractor, which we then follow through with, or if they have a city-approved change order that deducts the dollar value and work of the subcontractor, we will then credit the prime contractor with that deduct. In this case, we have two subcontractors, Alcorn Fence and Marina Landscape. We are recommending that the penalty of 10% of their bid-listed subcontract amounts, which the penalty totaling $7,400, not be assessed. Simply put, when we reviewed the information received regarding those two subcontractors, we found that while they were underutilized for, compared to the amount that they were bid listed for, both of them had underutilizations of less than $100, and we felt that was nothing that we needed to recommend a penalty for.
Okay.
The remaining four subcontractors, we have Amric Inc., DBA Material Supply Unlimited.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that one again?
Amric
Yes.
Inc., DBA Material Supply Unlimited,
Yes.
which was bid listed to perform street cleaning sweeping work totaling $12,000. In our initial back and forth with the contractor, they said that this subcontractor actually performed approximately $16,000 worth of work, and they submitted as proof their own internal accounting record. Staff had requested invoices from them to confirm this dollar amount, which we never received, and since the last hearing, they said that they do not get invoices from their subcontractors, and they do not have, they could not provide us with any sort of record where they basically almost issue to their subs an amount that they're going to pay them for. They don't have anything that shows that those subcontractors are in agreement with that amount. So we had asked for something that showed the amount of the $16,000. They were not able to provide that, and subsequently in a teleconference with them, they actually confirmed that this subcontractor did not do work, that it was found that their work was not needed after the contract was awarded. Now we have two other subcontractors.
Before you get to the other two, Ms. McGlinchey, let's deal with these one at a time. I think
Okay.
Since we've had some history here. So from August 29th to today, October 6th, what are we, the 19th, was there any information that was provided that cleared up the Amric situation such that the Bureau's recommendation would be anything different?
No.
Nothing was provided?
Nothing was provided. They were standing on their original contractor internal accounting record, which in a teleconference we actually confirmed was incorrect. They provided us, while in their transmittal number 2 they label it as the record for Material Supply Unlimited DBA Amric Inc. They refer to Exhibit B, which is their internal record, but the internal record is Amric Inc. DBA Vero Roses. Vero Roses is a completely different subcontractor for which we had no issue.
Okay. So, Commissioner Davis, any questions on
Yeah, I have
Amric?
Yes, I want some clarification in your account. In the teleconference, we discovered from their testimony that there was no work done on the subcontractor, that had been indicated as having done work. Is that correct?
They had previously indicated that this subcontractor had exceeded their bid listed amount. In the teleconference, they confirmed that there was confusion over this one and another one, and that this subcontractor did not perform any work.
And what would have needed to be done was that when that subcontractor did not complete the work, they should have notified Con Ed.
Actually, they should have gone to the Bureau of Engineering and requested a deduct change order deducting the dollar value of that subcontractor since their bid proposal indicated that they were going to utilize them for $12,000. The city paid them in the belief that they were going to get $12,000.
So they had a failure to contact engineering to implement that procedure to be in compliance.
Correct.
Okay. And their testimony to you was that they too were confused. And so because they were confused, that's why they failed to do that, is what they told you.
That I couldn't tell you. What I can tell you is that it came out that they, in the transmittal number 2, their response to our initial look at a penalty recommendation, their response was incorrect.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Anyone else with any questions on AMERC? Okay, Ms. McGlinchey, go on to whichever one you would like to handle second.
Okay. Lavelle Pearson Holland was bid listed to perform earthwork totaling $27,000. We verified that the subcontractor did not perform any work on this contract. Whereas the last board hearing, the contractor stated that there were deduct change orders. There were no deduct change orders. They had only submitted a request for information to the Bureau of Engineering, and that's how they determined that Holland's bid listed work was not needed for this contract. Again, they never requested that deduct change order.
Okay, so just so we're clear, again, a deductive change order that would have reduced the amount that the city would have paid for the project was not submitted. There was an inquiry made, but there was no deductive change order submitted. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So are you saying that so the 10% penalty is the $2,700, and you're saying that Bureau of Contract Administration is still recommending that penalty, even given the time that has passed between August 29th to October 19th?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. McGlinchey on Holland? Commissioner Jacinto.
On that, thank you. Ms. McGlinchey, we usually put these conditions consistently on that if there's a change in subcontractors, our primes must submit a deductive change order to effectuate that, correct? That's pretty consistent?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further for Ms. McGlinchey on Holland? Okay, Ms. McGlinchey, go ahead.
Okay, the next one is Westco Fire Protection, who was also bid listed to perform fire protection and sprinkler work totaling $28,000. Again, we verified that this subcontractor did not perform any work, and again, this was the same situation where at the last hearing they said that there was a deduct change order. However, the only thing that they were able to supply to us was their request for information, and there was no deduct change order that was submitted after that. So we have 3 subcontractors with that same situation. Since the last hearing, the contractor did offer to sign a no-cost deduct change order for these subcontractors.
Okay, but before we get to grouping them together, let me, just for my own assistance, let's go back to, let's continue with the West Coast. So it sounds to me like the West Coast situation is described identical to the Holland situation. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a situation where the work wasn't provided, so there was an inquiry about a deductive change order, but there wasn't a deductive change order.
There was no inquiry about a deductive change
okay,
order.
on
There
that
was an inquiry about whether or not the work was necessary.
Okay. And we still have one more left to talk
Yes,
about, right?
yes, we do.
Is there a reason that you were going to separate that?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to interrupt your order. You wanted to say that there was an inquiry regarding a no-cost deductive change order, so go ahead.
After our last hearing, when we were going through this and asking for the deduct change orders that they had claimed were issued, what was offered by the contractor is that they would sign a no-cost deduct change order.
Explain that.
So basically, they wanted the city to issue a change order deducting these scopes of work, but not taking any money back from the contractor. So they still wanted to be paid in full for this work which wasn't performed.
So, Mr. Jordan, is that something that the city would ever do?
I can't imagine why.
Because that would mean that we're paying for work that's not being performed, correct?
Yeah, I mean, no cost. There are times when there are no cost change orders. There are times when there's deduct change orders. A deduct change order, by definition, is removing scope from the project. So, unless there's some very special circumstance as to why costs are still incurred even though we're deducting scope, the deduct change order deducts scope and the cost associated with that scope.
Point of clarification. And in fact,
Commissioner Davis.
In fact, if that procedure were to take place, it would need to come before the Board of Public Works. Is that correct, Attorney?
I don't think all the change orders come before the board. I think there are certain change orders that are larger in scale, but a typical change order deducting scope would not come before the board.
So that then, in fact, the Bureau of Contract Administration could have granted that if they saw fit, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that the Bureau of Engineering does the change orders. Yes.
So they could have granted that if they saw fit, is what you're saying?
If it was appropriate for the project, yes.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. McGlinchey.
Okay, the last subcontractor is Richmond Plastering Incorporated, which was approved as a substitute for the bid-listed subcontractor Lindemann
And I'm sorry to
Construction.
interrupt you, just so we're clear, we'll have to start you over with Richmond, but so this request for the no-cost deductive change order, that related to Emmerich, Holland, and Westco, correct?
I believe so. Definitely Holland and Westco. Actually, quite honestly, the offer for that came through before we fully understood the misunderstanding that the contractor had with regard to Emmerich.
Okay, so Holland and Westco. Okay, now go ahead with the fourth one.
Okay, so the last one is Richmond Plastering, an approved substitute for the bid-listed subcontractor Lindemann Construction. They were to perform lath and plaster work totaling $79,000, and that was the amount that the contractor requested approval for. When the project was completed, we were able to verify that the subcontractor completed $113 worth of work. Therefore, the contractor may be assessed a penalty total of $7,900, which is 10% of the approved amount of $79,000. When informed of this, the contractor stated that the request for approval of $79,000 was in error, and it should have been for $70,000 to match Lindemann's bid listed amount. And in this case, they submitted their cost transaction report, which showed that Richmond's, it indicated Richmond's final dollar amount was a little over $67,000. However, when we request, again, same thing, we requested invoices to confirm that amount, and they could not provide anything to us. They additionally said that there were other issues in terms of quality control testing, and so they had paid other companies to come in, and they referenced Wallace Labs and CTE, which were used for that quality control testing. And the implication was they wanted us to credit them for doing this quality control testing for the lath and plaster work. So ultimately, we are recommending, since they were underutilized based on the amount that they were approved for, we are recommending that penalty.
But they would be underutilized even with the revised amount, wouldn't they?
Correct. Had they been able to provide us with invoices, it was still an underutilization.
Okay, anything further on this? So all those four numbers add up to the 14.6?
Yes.
So it's 7,900 on this one. Okay. 9, 18, I got it. Anything before we move on to our speakers, any further questions for Ms. McGlinchey, Commissioner Repenning?
On the Richmond item, just to clarify, we have the discretion. I know the typical penalty is 10%, but given that the usage was not, was lower than it should have been, but not as, I suppose, problematic as a couple of the others, we would have the discretion to recommend an adjusted amount.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct, Mr. Jordan?
Yes, the contract documents indicate that the penalty can be up to 10% of the amount of the subcontract. You do have the discretion to reduce the penalty below that amount.
Thank you, Commissioner Repenning. Anything further from Ms. McGlinchey before we hear from the speakers? Commissioner Rivas. Thank you, sir.
I just have a question about the request for information, which was related to Holland and Westco. Just so I understand, was that a step is that a request to see if this work was necessary? I guess
That is the implication. Perhaps engineering may want to clarify if I don't quite get this correct, but basically when a contractor is looking at the plans and specifications and drawings for a project and something may seem a little ambiguous, they will do a request for information to get clarification as to whether something is or isn't needed or what exactly the designer was expecting.
Okay, so that's just part of the process. The next step would be to, okay, this isn't necessary.
Yes, so it's not necessary. We bid listed. The next step would have been we need a deduct change order.
And that's what didn't happen, right?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Rivas. Any further questions for Ms. McGlinchey before we move on? Okay. I have speaker cards from Michael Wayne and Albert Giacomazzi. You all can speak in whichever order you would prefer, but please one at a time.
Good morning, Mr. President, board members, and staff. My name is Michael Wayne. I'm counsel to AMG and Associates, the contractor. I have with me today Albert Giacomazzi, and he would like to just say a few words about this company, his company, before we talk about some of these issues.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Good morning. AMG and Associates is a small business contractor when we bid this project. We do probably 95% of our work as a company is public works, is listed subcontracted work for the state of California, County of Los Angeles, numerous school districts, LA Unified School District, El Camino Community College District. So we're very familiar with listed subcontractors, public contract code requirements. When this project bid, please keep in mind, it was bid during the recession, that the numbers that what subcontractors were submitting were very, very aggressive. Subs were bidding work to try to keep their doors open. It's very simple. There were a number of substitutions on this project because subcontractors would not hold their pricing. From when the project bid to when the project was awarded was almost 1 year. So to ask subcontractors to hold their pricing at bid time for 1 year is almost impossible, especially with the financial challenges that they're faced. And Ms. Rivas, you actually made a really good point that I want to talk about. When we are bidding work, you have plans, specifications, and/or addenda that has modified the contract documents. This is all pre-bid. What we do in our best estimate, because that's what this is estimating, is we try to identify all the listed scopes of work that need to be identified as scopes of work that is greater than 1/2 of 1%. We do that to the best of our ability. There are certain scopes of work that may not be clear. It may be, as she indicated, they may be ambiguous. They may not be clearly defined. In that case, had to do with the fire protection work. Contract documents did not say that the building had to be fire sprinklered, did not say it did not have to be fire sprinklered. When we listed LP Holland and Wesco, the intent was that we assumed that the building had to be sprinklered. We were going to have to go into the street to make a tie-in, and that was going to be LP Holland doing the excavation work and the earthwork associated with that. Wesco was the listed subcontractor that was going to perform fire protection work based on what we thought was going to be required. Now, on November 12th, we issued RFI number 21 to your engineering department, clarifying if fire protection work was going to be a contract requirement or not. So we issued the RFI basically asking, please confirm that a wet pipe fire protection system is or is not required. The city came back in response, confirmed a wet fire sprinkler system is not required for the project. We did not know, and this is our mistake, and I'm sorry for that. We did not know that there was a contractual requirement to send in a request to delist a scope of work. We did not know that, and that's our error. And I genuinely apologize for that. So the work associated with Wesco and LP Holland is along those lines. Related to that is this Amer street sweeping company. When we go into the street and we have to go ahead and do an excavation, and you've got dirt, and you've got AC paving, patching, and all of the work associated with it, that's when we were going to use the street sweeper to keep the street clean. And we don't want to get any potential violations from the city because of that. That's what we had determined that vendor to do.
I'm sorry, sir, you lost me. If you don't mind, I'm going to call you Albert so I don't have to butcher your last name the whole day. I didn't hear the part on the street sweeping because my brain's trying to get my hands around what you meant when you just said that you apologize you didn't know that you needed to submit approval for the reduction in scope. Because we're paying for that scope. So does that mean that you get to keep the money, but you didn't know that you had
Absolutely. Let me put it this way. Let's say that we bid the project, all right? First of all, this is not a unit price contract. This is not a cost plus a fixed fee contract. This is firm, fixed price bidding, okay? Now, this is estimating. When we bid this project, we bid the project at 8%, somewhere around there. We lost 6% on the project from 9 or 8% down to 3%. It was between 8 and 9 and ended up settling at 3 to 5%. So let me give you this example of why it's important to make that clarification. Imagine that we are bidding this room, okay? And we're
You
putting
have to
our
pay a lot of extra money for air conditioning, but go ahead.
It's working well.
It does work well, and I like it nice and cool. But let's say that when we're doing our estimates and we're putting it together, that we missed this ceiling, all right? We totally missed it. We didn't list a sub for it, we didn't do pricing for it, and it's not included in our total amount bid. We can't come back to the city and say, I'm sorry, we made a mistake. We need to ask you for a change order to add that scope of work into our bid, even though we missed it. Well, you're going to say, hey, that's not my fault. I'm not responsible for doing takeoffs. It happens on every bid. You bid work
I'm not so sure I
based
buy
on-
your example, sir. I mean, we get those requests for change orders all the time.
Well, we
But-
wouldn't submit one because the scope is not, we did not pick it up. This isn't a cost-plus contract, and it's not a unit price contract. The work was confirmed that it was not required during the RFI process. Even though that we had listed it.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
May I make a
I have
clear?
a question
I'm sorry,
now,
go ahead.
and I'm going to let the council move forward. I just want to ask a question, and then I want to conclude with a framework. The question is, are you a frequent prime contractor for the city of Los Angeles?
This is the one and only project we bid.
This is your only one. Okay. Now,
We have bid, sorry for interrupting, we have bid other projects, but this is the one time that we were the successful low bidder.
Okay, now as we move forward, I just want to reflect on your recent comments, and I'm going to let your council proceed. In terms of a framework, in terms of where we sit as a matter of public policy, we have many stakeholders that we have to evaluate, including the rules and regulations of prime contractors, but also we have to consider the rules and regulations of both, in this case, one, the Bureau of Engineering, and two, the Bureau of Contract Administration. And then we have stakeholders in the city of Los Angeles and their best interest as well. So that each of these stakeholders are a part of what we have to evaluate. So as we look at what you have mentioned to us in terms of the rules of prime contractors, the benefit cost analysis, and those issues, that has a lot to do with validity, what is valid in doing the work. But we also have to worry about reliability in terms of all of the stakeholders that I mentioned, if we can count on them to do what they say that they're going to do. And that includes you as the prime contractor. So in terms of reliability, I have to know that you will know the rules and the regulations of doing business with the city, that you will know that you have to report, and that I can count on that you will be reliable to do what you're supposed to do. So I'm just saying that not for a comment, just to give you a framework from where we come from as a member of the Board of Public Works. So I want us to now proceed. I just wanted to throw that out.
Let me respond to that. Hang on one second.
Al, let me
Say
jump
that.
in for 1 second.
I'm not doing that for a response. I'm doing it to develop a framework from where we have to come from as a member of the Board of Public Works. I'm not condemning you. I'm just making a framework, a statement about the role of the members of the Board of Public Works and the stakeholders that they have to consider, and that's it.
Let me just make a quick comment. I think it's worth making a clarification here. We are talking about a fixed price contract. So the contractor obviously bears the burden if it costs him a lot more money than he expected to perform the work. By the same token, if it costs him less, he gets the benefit of that. What the city is saying in this situation is that the contractor does bear the burden if it costs more, but we, the city, get the benefit if it costs him less. And what's happened in this situation is worth clarifying because there's two different scenarios. One is where the city during the project says, you know, we've decided to change the plans and we're no longer going to require fire protection, or we're no longer going to require you to do this work that you bid for, and that's part of the work. And in that situation, a deductive change order is appropriate. In this situation, the contractor created an estimate of what it would cost him to perform this work, and he left a cushion in there for himself, in the event that he was going to have to do certain work. During the construction of the project, the contractor reached out to the city and said, do I need to put this sprinkler system in here? And the city responded and said no. So the city definitely was aware of the situation. There wasn't a specific request to delist a sub, but no subcontractor was harmed. In other words, this sub that was listed, they didn't do any work and no one did it for them. So there wasn't a substitution per se. And so maybe it would have been tighter for contract purposes had that delisting been done. But as it turns out, the city subsequently has refused to do a no-cost deduction. What our position is that this was an estimate of what it would cost us to do the work. It wound up, certain parts of it cost us less because we didn't have to do that fire protection. But other parts of the work cost us a lot more because we lost numerous subcontractors to this financial situation. I think that time period between award of bid and notice to proceed, a couple subs went out of business, a couple others refused to honor the prices in their bids, and this contractor was forced to go out there and expend a lot more money replacing those subs. And they did not come to the city and say, hey, you guys waited a whole year to issue this notice to proceed. We now are stuck having to pay a lot more money. We didn't come to the city and ask for it. We ate it. But on the other hand, in our estimate, we estimated something that wasn't required to do ultimately. It wasn't deleted from the plans. It just wasn't required to be done.
Council, I'd like to add that the city, in and of itself, was put in a very difficult situation when we could not absolutely evaluate specifically what is going on, for which we have a role and responsibility to do. And when we can't rely on your client, the prime contractor, to report to us as is expected, we don't have reliability that this prime contractor is practicing his business with us.
I understand.
As is required.
And I'm suggesting that there was.
Wait a minute. We have a comparative negligence case here. You have some concerns. We have some concerns for those who are members of the Board of Contract Administration or Bureau of Engineering, who in Bureau of Engineering, they're counting on prime contractors to do the reporting in their practice of doing contracting with the city of Los Angeles. So all I'm simply saying is that I hear what you're saying, but I also think that we have to account that while he did not know, it is something that is a part of the practice of doing business with the city of Los Angeles.
Well, hold on one second. Let me just say one other thing. The city's project manager for this project is here, Mr. Abdallah, and I think he can probably attest to how hard this contractor worked and how this contractor kept the city advised of everything that was going on. At the time of this particular issue, which relates to 3 of the 4 subs that we're talking about, we sent a request for information to the city, and that request goes to the Bureau of Engineering. The project manager gets it, and we got a response from the city saying you don't have to do this work.
And we don't,
So, gentlemen,
know of any
sir, excuse me for a moment.
Let them talk.
The one thing I asked you when you both came up at the same time is that you both don't speak at the same time. So I'm going to run the meeting the way I run these meetings. I'm going to tell you what the rules are typically that I relaxed today. Typically, people put in a speaker card. They put in a speaker card and we give them an assessed amount of time. One of the things that I have always done in the years that I've been here is when you are a party in interest, a specific party, I don't put the time limit on, but once you start to repeat yourselves, then I will start to implement the time limit. What I don't allow, for the very reasons it's happening this morning, is 2 people up at the same time. But what I do allow is you to choose in which order you're going to proceed. Well, I asked that you not both speak at the same time. You both came up at the same time, and it hasn't worked so well. So what we're going to do is next we're going to hear from Ms. McGlinchey on her response to what you've put on the table substantively, and then I have some questions for her. If we have some follow-up questions for either of you, then we will ask them. If you have someone else that wants to speak to us, your project manager, we're happy to hear from them. I won't put a time limit on them, but I do want a speaker card from them, and they will come up and speak one at a time. Okay? Thank you, sir. Ms. McGlinchey. So substantively, Ms. McGlinchey, regarding the request for the no-cost deductive change order, when did that come in time? Did that come after August 29th?
Yes.
So were you involved in the discussions with representatives from the prime contractor that led up to that?
Yes.
Okay, could you summarize those for me?
So they had submitted the copies of the RFIs as explanation in terms of the work being deducted. And I explained to them that that our contract is very clear that it has to be a deduct change order, and that was the response, that they would sign a no cost deduct change order.
And so, but is there anything that the Bureau of Contract Administration, are you seeing anything on this circumstance, this case this morning, that's unusual at all? Are these, whenever we're assessing penalties, are these common grounds under which we assess them or not?
Yes, I mean, we've come to you before with previous boards with recommendations under these circumstances.
And the reason that we assess, or the reason that we ask for a deductive change order is what?
Is in a case like this, the city's expectation is they listed these subcontractors. We were paying for these subcontractors to perform work, and in return, they were going to get work and be paid. Since neither occurred, our recommendation is to assess a penalty, since there wasn't a deduct change order which reduced the amount of work, the dollar value of those subcontracts.
But the penalty that we're assessing is 10%, and I may be right or wrong here, but the penalty we're assessing is 10% of the amount of the work, correct?
Of the subcontract amount,
so
yes.
If that subcontract amount is not paid by the prime is still keeping, in essence, 90% of the value of that work. Is that correct?
Correct.
Mr. Jordan? Regarding this issue about with the recession, subs bid when they're aggressive, as the principal a minute ago just mentioned, and then by the time the work began, the environment, the economic environment had gotten better, so they wanted to be paid more. Is that something that in our contracting process that the city takes that risk of these economic circumstances? What happens in that circumstance? What if a sub says, "Hey, wait a minute, I bid that out, but you know what? When I bid that out, I felt a little differently than I do today." What happens in that circumstance?
No, we don't really take that risk. The contractors take that risk. In a situation where there's been some...
And they take that risk when they choose to bid on a city contract, correct?
They choose to bid on the contract. They can bake into the bid some level of float or profit to balance out that risk. In a situation where there is, for whatever reason, a longer delay in the award of the contract after the bid, we ask the contractors to maintain the bid bond that they've posted. One method that contractors can balance out that risk that the subs pricing will increase is to not extend their bid bond. We've had contractors do that. So there's a number of ways that contractors can absorb the risk that ultimately it will be a change in price with their subcontractors. And it's not unusual for there to be pricing changes. Sometimes materials costs increase, but we typically don't take that risk ourselves. The subcontractors take that, the primes take that risk, and they bake that into the cost that they choose to bid for the city.
Commissioner Davis, and then, Commissioner Repenning, and then Commissioner Davis.
Sure. I actually would find it helpful to hear from Haji on this, on your work with the contractor.
Good morning, Commissioners and executive staff. My name is Ohaji Abdullah, the Bureau of Engineering Architectural Division, the project manager for this project. The CEO, Mr. Giacomazzi, is correct in that although it may not matter about the bidding environment and the time and duration it took to actually give them an NTP, we had to run around and look for more money. And while we were looking for more money, we sat down with Mr. Giacomazzi and his project manager and went through their bid. And before issuing the NTP, after it had been obviously awarded to them, So, and it was very clear at that point in regards to the Wesco fire protection, as we noted, hey, we don't need any fire protection here, and once we get started, issue an RFI, and we'll clarify that even further and document it as we should. But it would be very difficult to issue a deduct change order for that scope because we actually don't have that scope in the drawings. So they made an assumption that it should be there, but it was not in the drawings, and therefore we could not issue a deduct change order that what may have been appropriate in BCA. Please correct me if
That's just on Wesco, right?
that's just on Wesco.
Okay,
That's
go
just
ahead.
on Wesco.
Go ahead.
So at that point, they maybe should have delisted the sub, but I don't know that they, and BCA will certainly be the authority on this, but I don't know that we could have removed those funds or that cost from the overall bid.
Okay, so what I don't want to do is lose the other 3 subcontract issues on the Wesco issue.
No,
that's
totally
$2,800 that we're talking about here. Okay, so that's the fire sprinkler issue.
Totally different.
Okay, so go ahead.
So the scope for, as you mentioned, the scope for the street work, as a matter of fact, when we got into construction, and this not only went for the fire protection street work that was assumed, but also for the normal cold water and production of water to the facility and sewer. So as we got into the street, we noticed that the line that we needed per design was actually available at the size that we needed closer to the property line. So therefore, we should have deducted this scope from the property line out to the connection, to the main connection, and that would have resolved some of these issues for that particular contractor.
No, that's a different contractor that you just described, right?
No, this is for the contract work that was going out to the street work.
Yeah.
Right.
Was that Amerk?
Holland.
That was Holland.
Holland. Yeah.
Okay.
So there could have been or should have been a deduct change order for that scope at that time, and that did not occur.
Okay.
And that,
so I'm sorry, Commissioner Penning.
Do we want to do the third one? Or?
I want you to ask a question.
Yeah, I guess what I'm just trying to elicit from you is really, you work on a lot of projects, you work with a lot of contractors. You're working, your sense of the contractors' interest in and meeting the requirements of working on a city job is what?
Oh, I would, if I were to grade them on that criteria, I would give them an A. Okay. I think the confusion occurs when, because they have worked on so many other different municipal projects and different municipalities, and our rules are different. And I think that they honestly, there was some confusion as about what they were required to do, as per their arguments, per the public contracting code, and the differences here.
And I think that's sort of, for me, we're here to kind of be the human face of the department, and while I understand we have our requirements, we need to make sure that that folks doing work with us abide by them. I also think that we need to acknowledge that we're not always the easiest institution to work with, and we do, and so to me it is important that we that we have the ability to give a human assessment on these items, because we certainly don't want to send the signal that to prospective contractors that they don't want to work with us anymore because we're too difficult. We're too difficult, and so we want to have a competitive bidding environment so that we can get the best deal for the city. So that would conclude my remarks at this point.
Thank you, Commissioner Penning. Commissioner Davis, and then Commissioner Ascento.
Mr. McGlinchey, I appreciate and I hear the areas that you feel that we could have performed better on, and I got that, and I initially said that perhaps we may evaluate the comparative negligence if in fact there is some. But I'd like to have some clarification from Mrs. McGlinchey from Bureau of Contract Administration. It was mentioned in terms of the difficulty in working with us. And I just want to be clear about what the expectation of prime contractors is for doing business with the City of Los Angeles. And all of us promote prime contractors. I'm an advocate for prime contractors. And at the same time, I want people to know of the reliability of how the city does business and the administrators who execute the city's programs. And in terms of what we expect of prime contractors, there has been mentioned in this case that there was some unclarity, that somehow people were not clear. In the process and procedures, is there some education given to prime contractors about the rules and regulations before they do business? And the second part of that is, did we do that with this particular prime contractor?
Yes, there is a mandatory pre-bid meeting where we discuss the whole business inclusion program. So the contractor had to attend that mandatory pre-bid meeting, and they were informed of our expectations with regards to their subcontractors. Prior to award, they had to submit a form that's called a subcontractor substitution form, which again, just almost like bullet point states, they have to utilize those that are bid listed subs for the amount that they're bid listed for unless there's a deduct change order, as well as they have to go through the substitution process through the Inspector of Public Works. Lastly, after contract award, there is a pre-construction meeting where they must sign and initial a long list of expectations, of which, again, they are reminded that these are the requirements for their subcontractors, and failure to follow through will result in a penalty of up to 10% of the bid listed subcontract amount.
Okay. What occurs when you don't have an accurate reporting as it relates to funding that the City of Los Angeles is committed to? So I would suspect, and you clarify this for me, that in this case you had to deal with the Bureau of Engineering. The Bureau of Engineering communicates with you in terms of their communication with the prime contractor, and they give you an assessment on some of these items, 4 of each that we are talking about. They give you an accounting based upon their communication with the prime contractor. When there is a failure to give you accurate information, what impact does that have on you and your role and responsibility in contracting with the city?
Well, in terms of business inclusion, we go on the facts and information we have before us. So that is what we have done in this case.
So when you receive incomplete information, that has some impact on the outcome of anything at all?
So, if you're referring to like engineering not issuing a change order, yes. Had they communicated to us that for Wesco Fire that what had happened occurred, we would have included that in the board report.
What about with regard to the other two? We had Wesco, we had Holland, and then we had 2 others. Give me some feedback in terms of the action on the other 2 that have not been mentioned thus far.
Well, in this case, what we've heard this morning is that they should have issued a deduct change order with regards to Holland and Amric, and more than likely that amount would have been more than their bid listed subcontract amounts, because typically a contractor, when putting their bid together, includes that listed subs work, but they either also include overhead or profit or both in including that. So the deduct would have been more than what they were listed for.
So in fact, if Bureau of Engineering had given you the appropriate paperwork as it relates to this case, the city may not have owed as much in those two subcontractor fees. Is that correct?
Correct. If the deduct change order had occurred, the city would not have paid as much, and we would not be recommending a penalty with regards to those 2 subcontractors.
I want to focus on the fact that the city may not have had to pay as much. So by the city not having to pay as much, that means that now the city is having to pay more as a result of the failure to submit this form. Is that correct?
the city has paid more, yes.
Would it be reasonable to say that the city may be disadvantaged as a result of that not being done, as it relates to financing?
Yes.
I would think so. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Cinto.
Thank you. Oh, Haji, I have a question for you, sir. When we bid the project, do we include fire protection as part of the bid?
If it's in the drawings, it would be.
Okay, so I go back to the process of the contractor understanding or questioning, was that part of it? If it wasn't originally in the scope of work,
It was not.
it was not.
It was not.
So therefore, the assumption or whatever the projection from the contractor that that scope of work was necessary, submitted an RFI, but did not submit a deductive change order, and has admitted to that.
Yes.
I'm pretty clear on where we're at, and we understand that the prime contractor has tried to comply. This is new, different thing, but I'm ready to move on to sort of the discussion of the punitive or whatever, based on the BCA staff recommendation.
That's fine. I have one more question, though, for either our BOE representative or Ms. McGlinchey. Because Richmond is separate. I've got Holland, Westco, and Amherst. Amherst 1,200, Holland 2,700, and Westco 2,800. Based on what I've heard from our Bureau of Engineering, I'm inclined to walk away from the Westco. But where, Ms. McGlinchey, on the Richmond situation, but I have some concerns globally along those lines. On the Richmond situation, would you, because of all the discussion, would you refresh my recollection on where we are with the Richmond situation?
Sure. Richmond Plastering, they were an approved substitute for the bid-listed subcontractor.
Oh, this is the one where it was $67,000 instead of $62,000 instead of $79,000.
$62,000 is what we were able to confirm with Richmond. The contractor has claimed $67,000, but did not submit any proof of the $67,000.
Okay. Yeah, and thus the $7,900 on that. But even if it were $67,000, it was still that much less. Thank you. So, Mr. Jordan, on the rule that we're dealing with here to a certain degree is to protect subcontractors, correct?
Yes, our rules, both what's in
so it's more the Richmond situation.
Well, the rules regarding listing of subs and having to use subs that you've listed, and then what's specified in the bid documents as having to use the subs that you've listed in at least the amount that they were listed, it's all designed to protect against subcontractors being abused. I'm not saying that happened here, but the purpose of the rules is to protect subcontractors who historically can be subject to unfair practices at the hands of primes. Again, I want to be very clear, I'm not saying that happened here.
Understood.
That's just the purpose of the rule.
And we don't have any claim from subcontractors that they have been either, but go ahead.
There have been no claims that I'm aware of here, nor any stop notices filed in connection with these particular subs that I'm aware of. With regard to Wesco, BOE indicated, that scope was not there. Perhaps you delist the sub. I would just kind of urge some caution in thinking that, subs can be listed willy-nilly and then get delisted. We count on the listing of subs to look at whether bidders are responsive. They have to meet their MSM requirements. We have good faith outreach efforts, and we look at the response to the good faith effort. So if we simply allow subs to be listed, only to have them be delisted later, there could be, the potential for abuse of that. Because again, we look at the level of subcontracting in order to make a determination as to whether that bid was responsive. I'm not saying in this particular case it would have made a difference. I'm just saying that these rules are put in place for a reason. Lastly, I would point out that the rules are not meant to be a trap for the unwary. For a company doing work, admittedly very good work as reported by the Bureau of Engineering, but this is the first project for the city, I just point that out, that the rules aren't meant to be a trap, and they may have had that result here.
Thank you, sir. I think that's a nice segue into Commissioner Cinto's suggestion, which I'm ready for now. I think from what I've heard, we've got kind of three interests. I don't even want to say competing interests on the table. I think Commissioner, and they're all right. Commissioner Repenning's point that we have a circumstance where we have a contractor that was given a letter grade of A on the work that was done. I don't know that I would go there completely because of the reporting that was done later. I don't think it was an A. But I think that's something that should be considered. Commissioner Penning talks about the fact we can put a human face on this. That gives us some discretion to work with these numbers to do our best on what we have to obtain fairness. Commissioner Davis, I think, makes an excellent point in describing the overpayment that might have occurred here that may be a benefit of some sort to the contractor at the end of the day. But the flip side of that is, should the taxpayer be required to pay that? And then the third interest that Mr. Jordan just described, which is this is not intended to be a trap for the unwary. This is to protect subcontractors. We don't have any claim from any subcontractors here, and no indication from the project coordinator that would have happened here. What we do have here is a circumstance where the reporting was not as it could have been, and the other thing that concerns me is kind of the communications back and forth during the 6 or 8 weeks since. So that said, I'll entertain anyone's thoughts on where we go with a penalty or no penalty.
I want to just, again, add to the framework that we laid out earlier. I'd like to see us in our deliberations on this to have every tub stand on its own legs. In other words, to look at each of the 4 cases in terms of what is fair and what is just. I don't think one suit fits all, so I just think we need to itemize this and do what is fair. And I want to say that this has nothing to do with the quality of construction work that was outstanding. This has all to do with what we're discussing, the reporting and the financing of the project. That's all it has to do with.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. I think that's a fine suggestion regarding the 4 of them. So let's just take them in the order in which they were presented. Regarding Ms. McGlinchey, could we have you up? Regarding Amherst, that's the $1,200 penalty. The situation on that, and our representative from Bureau of Engineering, sir, I'm sorry. Mr. Abdullah, could you come? I have a question for you. The circumstance you described on the RFI that was submitted, request for information that was submitted regarding Westco, did that circumstance exist regarding the work that Amherst did, or was alleged or was bid listed to have done?
Amherst, the street sweeper?
Yes.
Yes. No, I do not recollect, to be honest.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. Ms. McGlinchey, so you could summarize the Amherst situation again for us?
Amherst was bid listed to do the street sweeping. Initially, the contractor, initially we were not able to confirm that they performed any work on the contract. The contractor had stated that they had performed almost $17,000 worth of work and submitted their internal accounting record as proof. However, no invoices were submitted, and subsequent to our last board hearing, it was determined between us and the contractor that the contractor was confusing them with another subcontractor and that they, in fact, did not do any work.
And Mr. Wayne, with as much brevity, your response on the Amherst situation.
We agree that Amherst did not perform any work, and it is our position that Amherst was the sub that was going to do street sweeping if we had to excavate for the water line. So it was related in that way to the Wesco issue.
Okay, I understand. Do we want to hear all of these, or do we want to discuss? Commissioner Repenning?
I mean, for me, I think looking at it, the Wesco, maybe we drop the one that was the Richmond, maybe it's some percentage of the differential, and maybe we keep the recommendation for Amherst and Alcorn, so something like 12, 27, and then, some, in my mind, much more reasonable amount for Richmond.
That's frankly where I am. Just to expedite this, as far as Wesco is concerned, I'm perfectly prepared to walk away from Wesco, given what we've heard from Mr. Abdullah, as well as the explanation that's been provided. Mr. Abdullah, was Holland, is that a similar circumstance to Wesco?
No.
Yeah.
Holland Pearson, their scope was listed in the drawings. So a deduct change order would have been necessary to
Right.
reduce that scope.
Okay, so I think Commissioner Penning is right on this. What I would propose is the $2,700 for Holland, the $1,200 for Amherst, and when I was looking at, the number I wrote down for Richmond was, given we don't have a real claim here, was 10% of the difference between the two, which is $1,700, because it was $17,000 was the difference. So instead of 10% of the $79,000, 10% of the $79,000, which was listed, and the $62,000 that we at least can confirm. The difference there is $17,000. 10% of that is $1,700. So that would put us at $1,200, $2,700, and $1,700. And that'll be 34. That would be $4,900. That would be 14, 16. That would be $5,600.
Yes.
Would be my recommendation. Is there a second on that? Commissioner Davis? Commissioner Penning?
I'll second it.
Second as well. Any objection? Without objection, then that will be the order. Do you have the motion clear, Mr. Campos, on how this is broken down?
That motion would address recommendation item number 2. So you have 4 recommendations before you. One is to accept the contract. Second recommendation is for the assessment of the penalties for $14,600. What I'm hearing from this motion is that recommendation number 2 would be decreased from $14,600 down to $5,600. You still have to make a motion to accept item 3 as proposed, no assessment of the penalty. And then item number 4 is just to disencumber the $10,000 and collect the remaining. In this case, it would actually be a refund back to the contractor.
Right. So let me go through with that summary and see if I can get this right. So my motion would be, 1, to accept the contract, recommendation number 1. Number 2, assess AMG and Associates with a penalty in the amount of $5,600 for the unauthorized subcontractor substitution of 1 bid listed WB subcontractor, 2 bid listed OB contractor subs, and 1 substitute OB subcontractor, as described in the oral record. As we broke those down, $1,200 for Amherst, $2,700 for Holland, 0 for Wesco, and then $1,700 for Richmond. Number 3, do not assess AMG with a penalty in the amount of $7,400 for the unauthorized subcontractor substitutions of 2 bid listed OBE subcontractors for the reasons discussed in the report. And number 4, instruct that this is amended as is number 2. Number 4, instruct the Director, Office of Accounting, to disencumber the recommended city penalty in the amount of $4,400, because that's the $10,000 which we're holding, less the $5,600 which is the penalty. So we would disencumber $4,400. Is that correct?
We would disencumber the entire $10,000, which is what's on hold now, and then we would release the remaining funds in the amount of $4,400 to AMG.
Oh, got it. Okay. So we're disencumbering, yeah, that makes sense. We disencumber the whole amount, but we hold the penalty of $5,600. So $4,400 goes to AMG, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So that would be the motion. And that's, do I have a second from Commissioners Repenning and Davis on that? Okay. Any objection? So without objection, that will be the order. Any issue sending this forthwith? No issue sending it forthwith. Thank you, everyone, for your participation and patience and indulgence here. We appreciate it.
May I ask one question? I'm sorry. Thank you very much for your time and consideration. The only
Depends on what your question is.
The question is this. Thank you, first of all. But the question is, does this have to be couched as a penalty on this contractor? Is there any other way we can name this? Because the contractor has never been penalized on a job ever, and they would like to keep a good record.
Mr. Jordan?
It's how our contract specifies it. I don't know of any way to.
What I will do here.
That characterization.
What I will do here is hold this item that we've passed it. Won't send it forthwith to give us in-house the ability to evaluate with the Bureau of Contract Administration and our city attorney as to what the answer to that question would be.
Thank you very much, all of you.
And if we were able to revise it, then what we would do is a motion for reconsideration at our next meeting on Friday.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Yes, sir. So agenda item number 8 passes as amended, but it's not forthwith. All right? Okay, so other than that, Mr. Campos, have we cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
Okay, then we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.